Hello, Soul. As you can see, I have Dr. Gordon Giesbrecht joining me, and we are just doing a brief message to inform all of you what Gord has been up to. And Gord, you came with us in November. You experienced Ukraine, Western Ukraine, and you had a great time, as I understand it, teaching and just experiencing the culture and the people. Do you want to share a little bit about your first experience in Western Ukraine?
Yeah, it was great. It was short. It was only a week, but I got to meet Pastor Sergey, which most of us know. And we went to 3 different towns there, or cities, and met several congregations, and just had it was a really an illuminating time to see how our church is supporting their church in huge numbers of different ministries that Pastor Sergey is involved in. And then when the war started, because I'd known all these, or several of these folks, it really hit home to me. And I think I phoned you, Pastor Gerry, about week 2 of the war and said, "You want to go to Ukraine? Is there something we can do?" But there were safety issues, so we never did that. But I've been willing to, just telling myself, I'm willing to go somewhere, sometime, to do anything to be supportive.
And part of that means people being displaced. And one of our missionaries that was displaced was Tonia and Alexey Pankov, who were in Russia and then found themselves in Turkey. And then now you somehow connected with them. Do you want to go on and tell us the journey between you and the Pankovs?
Well, they have a very complicated story. They were in Altai, and they moved to Novosibirsk, bought a house, and then 2 months later the war started, and they had to. They didn't have to flee, but they had to leave the country.
Well, because Tanya is Canadian. That's the major reason.
And they think that maybe the KGB stole their computers out of their vehicles. But anyway, so they left, and they were wondering, how can we just have moved and now we have to move again? But the whole story is very complicated, but it all led to them being sort of stuck in Turkey for 5 weeks. And if the timing hadn't been the way it was, they would have missed this opportunity. But while they were there, they realized there were 2 major areas. There were 2 facilities there that were housing orphans and foster children who had been displaced from the Ukraine. And also there's an opportunity to plant a church for Ukrainian immigrants and refugees. So they decided, hey, this is where God's put us, we're staying. So they sent an email to that effect. And so I emailed them back and we talked a bit. And I asked if they could use some help, and they said yes.
And so you decided to go to Turkey.
I did. So we were talking. So he said, "Well, I don't really know you that well. What can you do, right?" Because he doesn't know, And we talked a bit about it, and then we realized the main thing that happened was they got about 400 kids there, and there's no school because they've been displaced. And they say, what we're trying to figure out things to do with them. So we came up with the idea of sport camps. So I took 300 pounds of gear there, and it all did eventually get there. And our mission statement was to introduce North American sports to Russian-speaking Ukrainian kids in Turkey.
And how'd that go?
Well, it was exhausting. 3 reasons. One, that you're playing games with kids, and they're somehow have more energy than I do these days. There's a different language, and the sun was blazing hot. But we played Canadian. They kept wanting to call it American football, but I said it's Canadian football on day 1, and then we did hockey to Turkey on Tuesday, and then we introduced baseball, which was very interesting, and then pickleball and parachute games. And so now they've just got lots of equipment that they can continue to go on a different sport every day if they want. So that was mission accomplished. I think they've got, and they can also use it with their outreach as they try to build up their church plant.
Now, a number of people helped you in this whole process, right? We're talking organizations, and of course there's personal financing, and there's some donations even from us here at Soul. How did you find people when you asked them to help you out?
This is actually a pretty simple focused event. So I didn't actually go to too many places. Anybody I told I was doing it thought it was a fantastic idea. But we got most of our, in fact, all of our equipment from Source of Sports, and Kyle was very good to give us a big discount on everything that we bought there. It was more than I thought, but we just kept adding stuff, so I guess it all adds up. And we also got kids' shirts from our leftover shirts from years gone by at the University of Manitoba sport camps. And so I think we gave away like 500 shirts. They're all gone. When I needed a shirt later on, I couldn't get one. So they're all gone.
That's great. That's great.
So it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah. So a lot of times when we go overseas, people think, oh, all you do is you just have fun and games. And without question, that's literally what you did. But is there anything that stood out to you? Is there a meaningful moment, a meaningful contact, whether it was a story from Tonia and Alexey or just the kids or the parents? Like, because there's foster parents there that were looking over these orphans as well. Anything stand out?
Well, the fact that these kids are so needy. I mean, they were clingy and huggy, and I had one of them kissed me on the cheek, and I go, man, I'm just new here. You can just tell they already had it bad. They were in an orphanage in Ukraine, and then they had to leave the country. And one of my favorite pictures is one where I'm with a bunch of girls, many of whom were developmentally challenged, who never get a chance to do anything. And I kind of took them all aside and got a space and protected them from the boys who would take over the game. And we played very rudimentary hockey, but put a big smile on their face. And this relates to everybody that's there, but especially these kids who have no parents and have some major challenges. Near the end of the week, I sat down with Alexey and I said, okay, tell me about these kids, like these girls here. Like, what is going to happen to them when they age out of the system, become 18, and no longer can be cared for in the orphanage? And it was actually almost an emotional time. He said, I can't answer. Like, well, I don't know what's going to happen to them. And that's, a handful of kids that I met in a place where there's 5,000 refugees in Turkey. And we know there's 2.6 million refugees coming out of the Ukraine. And so the needs, I developed this statement from years of going here and there and around the world. There's plenty of need to go around. Tragic situation. I was just happy to be able, that I could personally, and that the church is supporting Alexey and Tonia as they carry on this fantastic work. These folks are dedicated, well worth supporting. And oh, by the way, to do this, all they have to do is learn a third language, Turkish. And so they're talking about taking Turkish language, figuring out how to speak a third language. I'm to the point where I'm losing control of my English, but
yeah. So
third language in a third alphabet.
So sitting back, and I'm watching this on social media. What are your words to me? I want to help. How can I best help?
Well, not everybody has the ability to just go run off to Turkey and take a bunch of stuff with them. I mean, the two obvious things that we say is, pray for these folks. And, there's lots of financial needs still. So to support financially. But I also think we may not necessarily always talk about it. It's just, making some kind of contact. You don't have to go there physically. You can email them, text them back and forth, and just provide some encouragement on an ongoing basis. They're still not speaking the language of the country. They've left their 3 adopted kids. They're young adults, so they're not children, but still, The 3 adopted kids are still in Russia. And so I think, I think they need all the support that a Christian family can provide.
So what you're saying is that people can actually go on your Facebook or my Facebook or Instagram. They can find Alexey and Tonia Pankov, add them as friends, and connect with them and pray for them. If they want, they can give. They can give directly to Soul and put Pankov or Turkey on their designate, and we will make sure that that goes straight to them. So there's a number of ways, and again, I think the biggest one is to prayer. Do you have any plans on going backward?
Well, they said I could come back anytime. I can't go back for at least 6 months. I do have some time next winter. I would go back at some point within the next year, as long as there's something that I could do that's meaningful.
Yeah.
If the kids are still there, which is, in reality, it's hard to imagine that the war will be over and they'll be able to go back.
Right.
So that entirely is possible.
Okay. Well, listen, I just want to say thank you for your time, and on behalf of all of us at Soul, thank you for going and representing us, and just blessings upon you and fruit for your ministry that you put into those kids. And maybe we'll see some Turkish hockey players in the near future.
That's right. Yeah, well, there you go. So just remember, Slava Ukraine.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.